$322 billion annually on a global scale is what work fatigue and burnout is costing companies today. I want you to think about this. A company that has 1,000 employees, it's costing them over $5 million a year just because of burnout or fatigue. Smaller companies, it's ranging between $21,000 and $25,000 per employee for the cost of burnout or employee fatigue. So when people hire me and they want me to come in and they look at my costs and they think that I'm expensive, look at these numbers. I mean, we're talking trillions in the next 5 years in employee burnout. I'm Kourtakis, and I am a licensed therapist, and I am also a wellness consultant. And that's kind of a buzzword that's going around today. And people really don't know what that means or what that understands, or what that means and what that, what in the understanding of it. And let me break it down to you a little bit. I come in and I work with your team, and we figure out how to increase morale. We figure out how to relieve stress. We come in and we figure out how to decrease burnout for your employees. I want you to think about something like 70% of CEOs. I mean, that's 4 in 10, if not, 3 in 10 are facing burnout, are facing fatigue, are facing, and ready to leave their jobs, and they didn't even think about it. 27% of C-suite employees are ready to leave their jobs in the next 6 months. Decision fatigue at the executive level leads to errors, it leads to mistakes, it leads to hostility, and it leads to a lot of other things that a lot of companies just can't afford right now. So I work with high-achieving individuals, and they are doctors and lawyers. They are CEOs, and we talk about burnout all the time. We talk about what that looks like. We talk about in another video, I talk about what it means to be selfish and what it looks like to be selfish and to take care of ourselves and to prioritize ourselves. But, when we look at it as a whole and at a global scale and a global, I call it basically a pandemic, is that burnout is real. Burnout at the corporate level is something that, if it's not nipped in the butt earlier rather than later, is going to affect companies bigger than they ever thought. And it's something that, it's going to become a plague if they don't address it. And the companies that I work with have seen nothing but positive growth. And in fact, every dollar that they invest with me, they've seen a 2 to 1 return. I mean, that's exponentially. They have seen a 54% increase in their morale. They have seen a 56% less sick days, and they've actually seen a 53% reduction in turnover, because you know what? Burnout leads to turnover, because burnout, somebody in a company gets burned out and they say, you know what, I'm going to leave because I'm going to try to find another company that may not burn me out as much. Or, they try to find a new situation or a new boss or something like that because they're in a situation now that's just burning them out. I mean, it's insane the cost that healthcare costs companies today, and burnout and stress and anxiety leads to all of that, both physically and mentally. And if it's not addressed, then it's going to continue to increase costs. But as a wellness consultant, going in and talking to people and asking what their best hopes and what different things look like, and being able to increase and change morale and change the way things are done at the companies, I mean, the positive impacts, not only immediately, but long-term, are just exponential for these companies. I mean, like I said earlier, $21,000 a year per employee for smaller companies, and larger companies, $5 million a year per 1,000 employee. I mean, if you have 10,000 employees, I mean, we're talking, $50+ million that you're losing because of burnout and anxiety. And, when you see my bills, you think mine are expensive. Wait till you see these bills. I mean, what does it cost as a individual to have somebody leave your company? Well, you have to have severance if you got to fire them. You've got to pay them to, or you got to pay somebody to post a job and find somebody else. Then you got to pay 3 or 4 people to go through the recruiting process. Then you got the onboarding process. And imagine if all that could just be alleviated by investing a little bit more into the wellness of the individuals that work for you and giving them a little bit of care. I did another podcast that talks about, I believe 100% that a company should have a therapist on site, at least short-term, if not long-term. If somebody's having a bad day, let them talk about it. If somebody's struggling through a project, let them talk about it. If somebody's having some issues with a coworker, let them talk about it. Those are the things that create burnout. Those are the things that create stress and anxiety in the work, in the work areas. So if they got a big project that they need to, talk about how they're going to accomplish it, talking to a therapist might be able to help them identify the goals and milestones and being able to reach those. But instead of them leaving and creating a void there and actually costing you $25,000 to $50,000 to replace that person and that individual, hire a wellness coach. Bring somebody in that can work with your entire team, somebody that can change the way you guys do things. And no, I'm not going to come in and tell you to change your chairs to bouncy balls or anything else like that, but I am going to identify weaknesses in the way leadership manages their employees that can create a negative impact versus a positive impact. I am going to come in and I'm going to work with your employees, and we're going to talk about what is good and bad and ugly and everything else and what can be changed. And we're going to talk about what their best hopes are and what those look like. And if they were to reach those best hopes, what did it mean? And the teams that I've worked with in the sales side of things, I've seen sales increase 20, 30, and even 40% because we changed the mindset of the way they think. We changed the way they view things. The anxiety that comes with a project is no longer the anxiety for the project. And we, hit that head on. But, a 2-for-1 return and a 35% reduction in healthcare speaks for itself. And when people are done with my services, they see an 84% increase in the higher production from their team members. And 73% are more than likely, or less likely, I should say, to see burnout, after working with me for a year. These stats, these statistics are actual clients. These are what they're telling me. They say, yeah, we were nervous about bringing you in because we didn't know what to expect after we did. We can't believe the impact and the changes that you've had. Like I said, 2 to 1 on the spend is insane. If we continue to keep going the way we're going, like I said, $5 million a year, $21,000 to $25,000 per employee that we're costing ourselves as leaders. And like I said, the leaders that I work with, they're already out the door. They got one foot out the door. They may love their job, but they finally, I just can't take it anymore. The work-life balance is killing them. And when you talk to some of the employees and why they have the burnout is because of a couple things. They feel that being the pressure of 24/7 of being on and not being able to unplug is huge. Excessive work overload. 67% of people that I interview and have talked about say that work overload and excessive, job entails is something that leads to their burnout. So take their job, split it in half, and even though it costs you, twice as much in salary, it's going to cost you half as much as replacement and in sick days and things like that. I mean, being always on is something huge. And then now in this day and age with AI, more and more people are facing the uncertainty of what it is, what it looks like. Is it going to replace their job? Is their job in jeopardy? Are they going to have a job in 5 years? And now all of a sudden this anxiety and this work stress and this burnout in the work environment is just continuously creating costs. I mean, when you got somebody that's got work fatigue and they're supposed to work on a project that takes them that's supposed to take them 30 minutes and it takes 2 hours because they sit there and stare at the computer and they don't know what to put down, that's a problem. Imagine being able to eliminate those 2 hours that they sat there and being able to create a better and more productive work environment and a better and more productive worker or team member for your company. Imagine what that's going to do to the growth and profits. Imagine what that's going to do for morale. Imagine what that's going to do for bonuses. Imagine what that's going to do for the company as a whole as they're looking to grow and reach the next stages. I mean, I'm sure the company's got growth expectations and targets that are set by the board of directors. Imagine if they were able to exceed them without adding any additional costs or spend, but just by bringing a wellness coach in that's able to work with you guys on the mental health side. Again, I'm Chris Kourtakis. I am a licensed counselor. I am a life coach, and I am a wellness consultant. And like I said, I work with high-achieving individuals from doctors, lawyers, and C-suites all the way down to middle managers and more. And we try to figure out everybody's best hopes. And whether it's the company, the corporation, or it's the individual, we're going to identify those best hopes, and we're going to figure out what those outcomes are going to look like. So if you like this video, make sure you hit the like button below. Leave a comment if you think that this resonated with you and there's more information you want to share. I will respond personally because I want to engage with everybody that took the time, and I appreciate it and and value your time as well. Again, my website is askchrisk.com, and you can find us and more information about that. If you like this content, don't forget to subscribe And if you feel that there's somebody out there that can value from this, make sure you hit that share button. It's a little arrow points forward. It's there for a reason, and I would love that opportunity. But until then, I want you to think about that number, $25,000 per employee per year. That employee's with you for 5 years. That's over $100,000 that you are losing because you didn't have a wellness coach. That's over $125,000, one employee that you could have saved and invested. And that's why my people who work with me, they say a 2-to-1 investment. They spend $100,000 with me, they're getting $200 back because nobody's leaving. Their morale is high. Their turnover is low. Can you imagine what that would do for your business if morale was high and turnover was low?